you because you have a date with the water slide.
Yeah, it's time to go for a ride. Last time that we were in this dungeon Trekkie, we actually did see the one team say, hey, Mom, I want to go back on the slide, hoping not to see that again from either of these teams. But Hippo the kitty has landed into the pool. Let's see how big they actually decide to go.
Yeah, you have a second water slide after the first boss too, although you are in a barrel, so it might not be as comfortable. But Don't Choke here just seem to be pulling a little bit slow. They might end up leaving all the way up to the Hulks as well. Team Deplete going all the way. Their tank having incredible mobility, getting for both those Hulks. And it's just gonna have to make sure that they do not do that frontal on other people. Actually, tank taking both stacks, taking a lot of damage. Don't Choke doing exact same pull.
Yeah, now the Feral doing absolutely mind-boggling DPS. We can see that they are really looking for their Affliction Warlock to be in that build. Hippo is going to go down there, but their Affliction Warlock is Sow the Seed, so he's going to be putting out a lot of Seed of Corruption. Not quite keeping up with Hippo when Hippo was up, but
Team Deplete having a tank depth there. They were doing really poor job of actually making sure that those Hulks do not get that frontal off after they knock the tank off. You have to stun them, knock them, push them backwards, something like that. Meanwhile, Don't Choke doing a lot cleaner of that pull instead of just having to just have the worms that kind of teleport out and just stand around a little bit. Those are the last ones left. Team Deplete having basically done the pull as well, even with those two deaths, though.
Nice thing to see out of Don't Choke. This is a similar thing that we actually did see earlier today. You need to get the healer down as quick as possible. Get that role play out of the way. They just shaved off so much time here. You could actually see that their Resto Druid got down very quickly and initiated that role play, so Rockmora is already active. Now Don't Choke will be pulling the boss. You can see the Warrior charging on in, popping Heroism, using everything that they have to bring them down. That slow and steady pulling is going to pay off. Team Deplete finally gets down to Rockmora, gets through their portion of the roleplay, but you can see people were waiting for a little bit for Rockmora to actually go active.
Yeah, Team Deplete didn't have the ability to be able to jump down too early because their pull wasn't as clean, so the healer wasn't able to leave that situation, start the RP as early as Team Don't Choke was able to. So right now, there's only like a few percentage difference though, because as we've seen before, Team Deplete has that incredible single target DPS here, and even from the healer doing a lot of damage. We actually see the damage meter in Don't Choke's corner here show the healer as a Feral Druid just because he goes into cat form and starts DPSing.
Yeah, the nice thing is you can really allow your healer to do that. This big stop is going to be where a majority of the damage does come out from the boss, and if you can keep skitters low, that is going to be manageable. The Druid can pop out of that cat form and actually hot everybody up, but lean majority of that fight on that Feral affinity to really deal damage. And you can see these skitters right now are getting dealt with very quickly, so the stop isn't going to be too much of a threat, getting everyone down to around 40%. It appears that they're really leaning on both their Arcane Mage and their Marksmanship Hunter to be doing that heavy single target damage. And you can see in cooldowns they were doing over 2 million, starting to stabilize here a little bit more. Team Deplete, though, still having slightly that upper hand, and this is just about as close as we were on the first map, Trekkie.
Yeah, they pulled Team Deplete pulled a little bit later, but they are actually now ahead of Don't Choke, so they should be able to finish this boss off a little bit faster there, having that extra healing damage as well as their tank doing a little bit more, and I think in general maybe a little bit more damage, but pulling that boss a little bit later didn't actually impact them that much, so we're gonna have to see. Don't Choke versus Trash has generally been way faster and way better than Team Deplete.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have a great comp for Trash, but I think this is just going to be one of those series that is going to remain close for the majority. We're going to have to see how this next pull actually does go. Don't expect either of these teams to have too much problems with Rockmora. We can see that not everyone is topped off at this point for Team Deplete. It takes a little while to get them topped off, but that is because they are really emphasizing their healer damage, and it is super important. Pieces getting chunked here, actually going to go inside of the ice block, going to be able to cancel that nice and early. Heads up play by the mage, and then we are going to see the hots go out. But it's worth using that global there to go inside of the ice block to allow that extra damage to come out from the healer. Team Deplete now all ready for that crazy river ride, pulling slightly ahead here. Don't Choke with another 3% left, and you can see they kited it slightly away from the exit. They're trying to remedy that a little bit now in the final remaining percentages, but they need to catch up. Team Deplete what do you think they're going to do in this pool?
I would expect them to do as big as a pull we've ever seen here as well. I almost wonder if they might pull the Hulk too, although I don't think it's a very good idea for them, as seeing how much issues they had with it earlier.
Yeah, with the Demon Hunter, I don't think that would be a really good idea.
Well, you still do have interrupts and pushbacks and stuff like that that you can deal with, so we're going to see them right here doing with those pelters. They're going to DPS them a lot, and then hopefully the Demon Hunter's going to just nope out of there and just start kiting them out, but actually staying in there, they're just gonna DPS them and kill them and have them stunned as long as possible here.
Yeah, we've seen most groups, as you are alluding to, Trekkie, when they actually do get to this pack, they start kiting very early to make sure that the pelters don't actually start hitting people with jagged discs. But this time around, we will see the jagged disc go out. Finally, a pelter does get to leap out, but they've already pretty much cleared the trash pack, and they've done it very cleanly. They haven't had to waste time running away. Don't choke, starting to catch up here. Let's see if they employ a similar strategy, as Team Deplete is dealing with the Hulk, and this was the mob that gave them trouble earlier in the dungeon.
This is where we're seeing Don't Choke just absolutely excel. They they ran up to that trash pack and just completely destroyed it so much faster than the Team Deplete managed to do here. So now they have the Hulks, and then we'll see how big of a trash packs they do later on. Don't Choke do not have that mass grip, so they have to rely on everything being a little bit clumped up anyway. So we're going to see a little bit. The next Hulk is going to be the more interesting trash pack I'm going to be looking for.
Yeah, definitely. It's awesome to see so many mages, though. I mean, we've seen a few mages in other regions, but now in NA we are really starting to see them shine. And a lot of the times, the mages aren't really thought of as a very strong DPS to be bringing, but pieces, showing that that is not the case, especially after the Fire Mage that we saw a little bit earlier today doing just dumb things as far as AoE is concerned. But now Team Deplete already inside of the room of Ularag, trying to clear out this trash, and it is definitely clear that they are excelling in a lot of ways on trash that they haven't been earlier in the dungeon.
Team Deplete doing that big pull with the pelters in the back with the Hulk too. They're having a little bit of an issue because that Hulk is pushing the tank. Now they have a one death too. They should really start kiting that. They have a second death and the tank dying again. I was just about to mention they've had so much issues with these Hulks not interrupting them. After they push down back the tank, they're gonna do that frontal. That tank has had that debuff up on him every single time, basically. I've seen these ads are now going to be kited back a lot. They have so low HP, so they want to just run back, kill them off a little bit. But that was a little bit, I would have probably called it a little bit miscalled to try to not kite the ads a little bit earlier, just because those pelters are going to start doing so much damage.
I was actually just commending Team Deplete for going for that bigger pull, starting to make up lost time, but it seems that they really do need to stick to their lane. They seem to be much better in that single target department and then struggling a little bit on trash. Question is whether or not it does come down to the tank. I mean, obviously having problems with that Hulk before, we saw that in that first pull. That's where he actually did go down. Now Team Deplete having 6 deaths total as Ularag gets pulled by Don't Choke, and the Demon Hunter is putting out incredible damage, but is it a little bit too squishy, or could mechanics be handled a little bit better? We will have to see if Team Deplete can recover here, but paying attention to Don't Choke now as they do pull Ularag. You can see the hands coming out from the ground. Those are going to be placed on top of the players. You need to move out of that, but the big thing to be looking out for is that shell game that will be coming up.
Yeah, it kind of feels like these teams went about it quite differently, where Team Deplete went for, well, we're gonna kill the bosses really, really quickly and deal with them, and then just kind of half-assing the trash, especially letting those Hulks do so much damage to the tank, having him dying. That's the second time he dies to those Hulks too. Meanwhile, Don't Choke says, well, these instances are mainly trash. We're just going to make sure that trash just gets deleted. They don't bring the double warriors, but they bring a warrior and an arcane mage instead, which seems to be completely just destroying the packs almost equally well.
I mean, there's quite a lot that you can get out of the marksmanship hunter as well on trash. I mean, there are ways to just spec it into just being an absolute trash monster, but you can also lean on it to be more of a single target build. And I think that's the nice thing about Don't Choke that you've already mentioned, but it is a balancing act when you're actually building your composition, knowing where you're going to get the most speed, which talents are going to provide you with the most speed. Right now, this Arcane Mage, even though it can do incredible things on trash, it is really shining in single target as well. Ularag is melting here. They might be able to do this in just 2 of the shell game phases, and we've already alluded to how much time they really can take. But Team Deplete pulls the boss as well, and their damage is just really impressive.
The damage is really high. We're seeing now Don't Choke going into that shell game, gonna find that idol at 47%, so it's gonna be interesting. Team Deplete having more DPS, actually getting a little bit lower. If that damage is gonna make a difference in that they're gonna have one idol phase less or not, that we don't know. But right now they have Team Deplete having 10% units on the boss lower going into the second idle phase.
Yeah, the big thing is if you can have one less idle phase, you're basically deleting, I would say, 20% from the boss, something like that. So it can put quite a large distance in between. Team Deplete has a long road ahead of them with that extra 30 seconds based off of the deaths. So getting something like one less shell game would kind of propel them back into this one. Don't Choke now, trying to keep their damage consistent here.
Yeah, Don't Choke will definitely have another one. Team Deplete being ahead of time, just finishing that idle phase. So are they going to be able to do it with one less, or is it going to be equal amounts of idle phases? Is going to be the real question here, who actually ends up pulling ahead.
Yeah, it's so close. This is just the story of like exactly what we saw in the last dungeon. Team Deplete just shooting up on the bosses. Don't Choke getting back ahead on the trash, but Don't Choke ultimately did win last time, but we do get another idle phase coming out. If Team Deplete can get this down here, they will definitely take the lead. Just 2% remaining. It looks like they should be able to do it. Oh, he does go down for a second. I thought he was going back underground. Now, this is where Team Deplete really needs to get good trash pulls going, because Don't Choke is going to be hanging out. The idols just come back up. They're starting to get their single target damage onto it now. Hippo looks like he is going to try to evade this trash pack. We do see the Imprisoned come out. That's going to signal to us they may be pulling the crocodiles. Yeah, Hippo going to run down right now to get those crocodiles going. I hope that Team Deplete actually moves them all the way to those first packs with the Grub Masters. Get some big pulls going here. Make up for lost time. Make up for those 6 deaths. Don't Choke still working on Ularag.
Yeah, that, like we mentioned, like Team Deplete having more focus on bosses and really paying off on this boss, being able to get one less idle phase. Now being quite a fair amount ahead, but they have those 30 seconds death difference as well. So Team Deplete dealing with the first Thrasher. We're gonna see if Don't Choke ends up killing these packs as well. They do end up pulling them, and they're gonna have to deal with them effectively here as well, and then maybe can skip a little bit of the trash before the last boss.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that we have to keep an eye on is if Zek can stay up. The main thing is he's a little bit squishy. We've already seen the Hulks being a huge problem. He went down to Hulks twice. The second time it was much more catastrophic. If it didn't happen, they'd probably be in a much better position right now. But no Hulks left trash-wise in this dungeon. Don't Choke actually decide to pull this pack here, the pack that was skipped by Team Deplete. Maybe they'll get to skip a little bit of trash a little bit later on in the dungeon, especially when they do get to the final room after Neuraxis. Team Deplete now working on all of that room inside of the Neuraxis chamber, jumping on down, getting a bigger pull going.
This Team Deplete have done this pack in basically 3 pulls, which I feel is a little bit too slow and inefficient for what we're used to seeing other teams do, for example. And we'll see if Don't Choke ends up doing a little bit of the same. They're starting off with a smaller pack here with the Grub Master, and they might go all the way for the later trash right before the boss. But it is important to note that Team Deplete does have 6 deaths, so that's going to be a bit of difference. But their specialty is the bosses, and they're going to come up to another boss with Tyrannical. This boss is going to take a lot of time, and Team Deplete is definitely going to kill this boss faster unless they do end up having issues.
Well, I mean, the main thing is, too, is they are pretty well positioned on this fight as well. Don't Choke going for a really big trash pull here. They need to make sure that these grubs don't actually metamorph. But they're just so good at the trash. They should be pulling the boss very shortly here. Zek taking a lot of damage. He is going to be really strong, though, on this boss fight in particular. Demon Hunter's having so much mobility. We'll see a spiked tongue come out, and the boss will actually attempt to pull the tank in and eat it. But because the Demon Hunter has so much mobility, he will be able to get away from that actual move.
Don't Choke having a lot of issues with this trash actually here. Had a Grub Master spawn those grubs, and actually 2 of them got through, got their full cast off, spawning mobs that does not give percentage, and just gonna slow them down. That was a big mistake from on their part there, really, like just slowing them down, and they're gonna end up pulling this boss so much later now. Team Deplete being on 55%, Don't Joke just gonna get up, pulling the boss. They had 2 deaths during that trash pack too, so it was looking smooth till that point. Had a few sloppy deaths there, but right now we're gonna see what's going to be the difference in this boss.
Yeah, Don't Choke. They're going to make sure that they actually do get this food right now before they pull the boss, but Team Deplete already does have it down to about 44% here. The Devouts are coming out right now. These are mobs that need to be killed, otherwise they will be eaten by the boss and actually allow that boss to go into an enrage phase. Some serious spike damages coming out onto Z-Heck, but able to stabilize there without a problem. Very good composition, though, for dealing with those adds, just because the melee are actually relatively mobile, so they can jump to it. Warlock may not have the highest burst pressure onto it, maybe can throw out a UA onto each one, but here we are going to see just great Affliction single target damage. Don't Choke finally getting some damage done on the boss as well, getting it down to about 70%.
I like this matchup, though, because we're seeing some things we haven't seen a lot. We're seeing the Prot Warrior, for example, the Vengeance Demon Hunter, we've seen that a little bit, but Hippo actually going down for Team Deplete as well, and they do not. Do they have a combat res? Yes, they do from the Warlock, of course. So that's another combat res. I believe that maybe the first combat res that they used earlier might have come back up now, but we're seeing double range DPS from both these teams. A lot of times when we commentated this fight, we've had only one range, dealing with those Devouts and having to deal with them all alone until they actually get back in melee. But there we go, Team Deplete killing the boss. Don't Choke having another 55% to go. The death difference is there 25 seconds, and they're not gonna have this boss down in 25 seconds.
No, that's definitely not something that is going to be possible on Tyrannical either. And now Team Deplete needs to figure out exactly which trash they want to pull here. It seems like they're going to skip that initial Scorpion that you can see in the left portion of your screen with the Dominator. They need to pull these two here, though. They don't have the ability to really stealth by too easily. The Hunter gets very low, but we do see that the Paladin is able to get it up, not able to do too much damage, though, during this time. The next pull is going to be really huge for Team Deplete. We've seen a lot of groups handle this in different ways, Trekkie, whether it's pulling just one pack, trying to pull both of them, or maybe even pulling trash alongside the boss.
I think Team Deplete has been very cautious in the end, and I don't think it's the right call for them to do everything but plus the boss. They might pull a lot here because it is not a fortified, for example, but they seem to be going slow here. They probably know that they are ahead. Don't Choke still has another 15% to go, so there's no reason for Team Deplete to go reckless here. They're not that dangerously close to losing right now.
Yeah, I mean, Team Deplete basically just needs to not choke at this point, and they should be able to take it. Don't Choke, on the other hand, still having that 6% left on their axis. This is the question, though, for Team Deplete. Do they end up pulling both of these packs together? I don't think that they will pull it with the boss, but they may opt into pulling them both at the same time. I don't think that their composition necessarily will struggle with it, and they are going to do just that before they do pull.
We are seeing something we saw earlier as well, the Demon Hunter imprisoning one of those mobs and then dealing with the others. So they could actually, as we saw before, we saw an imprison on the ad. As long as they keep imprisoning him before he goes out, they can actually permanently CC him and just pull the boss and kill the boss without actually ever dealing with him. Don't Choke now gonna come down to this lava-ridden place here, and we're gonna see if they end up going for a super big pull. They are a little bit behind. They've done really good trash pulls before. They do not have those grips, as we've seen a lot of DKs have before, so it's gonna be interesting to see if they can pull that big one off. And here we saw actually Team Deplete ending up pulling that last mob instead of deciding to chain CC it.
I like just taking it down. They obviously don't need the percentage, but I think it's just a relatively cleaner strategy, because the one who would be getting off those imprisons most likely would have to be the tank. There's a lot going on during this fight. Don't Choke going way more all in here. They're going to go for that bigger pull, and their comp definitely does do well with doing that, but ultimately they will have a DPS fall down. They should probably at this point invest a battle res. I think they may decide to do that just to get the trash down, but Team Deplete already getting their work going onto a Dargrul, and the first Char skin is up, and they have oh wow, it's just gonna go right onto that wall. Gonna be able to get the damage onto it and bring it down, but Don't Choke is actually choking.
Don't Choke losing everyone, basically. A full teamwork there, wipe after having that Hunter dying right away. Might not have had that combat res because they had 2 deaths earlier on trash, so they might have used it there so they wouldn't have it available. The hunter might have had it available, but he was obviously the first one to die. That's a big hit for Don't Choke here, and Team Deplete, we're gonna see a B on Dargle, and are gonna just be able to, hopefully, if they do everything right here, they should have a smooth rest of the pool.
This also was their pick, too. They went down to Don't Choke in the first map, so they were able to pick this. Now we can see they're getting behind the wall to avoid Dargle's massive damage ability, which can just take everyone down. It's one of the nice things about having multiple range, too. Very good spread on the walls. They can just hide behind both of them at the same time, essentially, and now getting their damage out. They've just looked really good throughout this entire thing. The question is, when it is Don't Choke's map pick, if they are able to take this one, will they be able to win again in back-to-back games?
Yeah, Team Deplete should be able to have this boss down faster than Don't Choke, but they've had issues before on other trash, etc. So if they do the mechanics properly here, they should be able to kill this with relative ease, even on a high tyrannical key. Now we see the charge is being destroyed there during its stun when it does take increased damage. Don't Choke still having some trash to deal with here. Gonna end up pulling them just as before. And just gonna have to destroy these, hopefully fast enough. They have a death right away from that Arcane Mage.
Yeah, this is a pretty bad scenario to be in. The question is, when you already messed up on the pull the first time, do you just go for it again in the same exact fashion? That's exactly what they do, and they do have a team member go down. And now it seems like this is just Team Depletes by a lot. Working on Dargrul, they're already at 33%. Another Charskin may come up, and there may also be another big Molten Crash ability, but Team Deplete seems to be in the driver's seat.
Definitely, and Don't Choke here still having a lot of issues with this trash. Those Scorpions doing so much damage, trying to keep everyone alive there. They have 2 extra. They pull the boss as well there. That's gonna definitely not work at all. Like, you might actually be able to reset him by killing this off with 4 people while this Scorpion and the Charskin already up as well. I don't know what they're thinking about right now.
Yeah, the question is, can they leave the Charskin stunned? We see some spike damage going out onto Zek. But I think they're actually going to invest damage into the Charskin, just get rid of it, play it by the book, go very safe instead of just trying to burn that boss down. They aren't able to bring down the Charskin in that first stun, so it does get brought back to the boss. We see one of their damage going down. They need to use the battle res. The Hunter is back up, healer getting very low, and we do know that the walls were used on the Charskin, so there can be some serious pressure coming out off of Dargrul. Everyone is back up and healthy at this point, though, so they should be able to just burn it down. Only 7% remaining. Even if they don't have a wall to hide behind, they should be able to use an immunity. It looks like Team Deplete is going to be able to take this one.
Don't Choke having yet another death as well. They're same in terms of death as well. So Team Deplete taking the second match on their own pick of a dungeon.
The chest was open. I want to see the loot.
Oof, Cat is where it's at in that one. And, you know, we questioned the pick coming in, but worked out. And unfortunately, Don't Choke just, well, they enjoyed a tall